The night air in Lagos carried a heaviness that pressed against my chest as I sat by the window, staring at the compound gate. My father's words still echoed in my ears like a stubborn drumbeat. Ngozi, your sister deserves more. She deserves everything we couldn't give her. Don't hold back from helping her. I had smiled politely when he said it, biting back the bitterness that threatened to spill. It wasn't the first time I had heard those words, and it certainly wouldn't be the last. Growing up, it was always Amaka first. Amaka was the first daughter, the beauty of the family, the girl with smooth skin, round eyes, and laughter that charmed neighbors and strangers alike. I, on the other hand, was simply Ngozi, the other daughter, the quiet one, the one who blended into the shadows while Amaka shone like a torch in the dark. But what my parents never realized was that shadows often saw what light concealed. That night, as the gate creaked open and my brother-in-law's car slipped in, my chest tightened. Chaik. Even his name carried weight in our home. He was tall, with a sharp jawline and a confidence that made men respect him and women whisper behind closed doors. He worked in oil and gas, a career that screamed money and influence in Nigeria, and my parents worshipped the ground he walked on. To them, he was proof that Amaka's life had been destined for greatness. Amaka married well, my mother would boast at family gatherings, her voice laced with pride. God truly blessed her. A husband like Chaik is not ordinary. But blessings don't come wrapped in secrets unless you're willing to peel back the layers. And I had peeled them back, one by one. It began innocently. Chaik had forgotten his phone at the house one Sunday afternoon after a family lunch. Amaka had rushed off to the salon, leaving the phone on the dining table. I didn't mean to touch it, but curiosity is a dangerous seed, it only takes one moment of weakness to sprout. The screen lit up with a message, when will you tell her? The name was saved as Ada. My heart skipped. I told myself it was probably business. Maybe her was Amaka, and maybe Ada was a colleague pushing him to break some news about a contract. But then another message popped up, you promised this week. I'm tired of waiting. I froze. The way the words bled desperation made my skin crawl. Business partners didn't sound like lovers waiting to be acknowledged. From that moment, my eyes sharpened. Whenever Chaik visited, I watched. Whenever he excused himself for late-night calls, I listened. And slowly, a pattern revealed itself, an affair wrapped in secrecy, shielded by Amaka's blind trust and my parents' worship of his perfection. The more I discovered, the heavier the words of my father felt, your sister deserves more. Yes, I thought bitterly. She does. And I'll give her more, but not in the way they expect. The first time I confronted Chaik was not planned. He had come to pick Amaka up for dinner, but she wasn't ready yet. I found him outside, leaning against his black Range Rover, scrolling through his phone. Brother Chaik, I greeted, forcing a smile. He glanced up, smirk tugging at his lips. Ngozi, the quiet one. How are you? Fine, I said, though my heart pounded like a drum. Business must be good these days. You always look busy. He chuckled. That's life. If you don't hustle in this city, you'll drown. My eyes darted to his phone. And Ada? Is she part of the hustle too? The shift was instant. His smile vanished, his posture stiffened, and his eyes darkened like clouds before a storm. What did you just say? I held his gaze, my palms sweaty but my voice steady. I know about her. For a moment, silence stretched between us, so sharp it could cut. Then he leaned closer, lowering his voice to a whisper that reeked of menace. Ngozi, you don't know what you're talking about. Be careful. Some things are better left unseen. Amaka appeared just then, bright and oblivious, kissing his cheek and linking her hand with his. Shall we go? She asked, smiling at him, at me, at the world that had given her everything. And just like that, the mask slipped back onto his face. He kissed her forehead, flashing that charming grin that melted everyone else. But I had seen beneath it. And I couldn't unsee it. Weeks passed, but the weight of his warning never left me. At night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, my mind torn between silence and revelation. If I told Amaka, would she even believe me? Or would she, like our parents, accuse me of jealousy, of trying to ruin her perfect life? I remembered when we were children. Amaka had once taken my dress without asking, worn it to a party, and stained it with palm oil. When I cried, my mother scolded me, "She is your sister. She deserves more than you. Don't be selfish." Even then, Amaka's needs outweighed my pain. Why would it be different now? But this time, it wasn't about a dress. This time, it was about her life, her marriage, her dignity. One evening, I sat with her in the sitting room while she painted her nails, humming to herself. I studied her face, wondering if she could survive the shattering of her illusions. "Amaka," I began, my voice trembling, "are you happy with Chaik?" She looked up, startled. Of course. Why wouldn't I be? He's everything I prayed for. Caring, hardworking, handsome, what more could I want? I swallowed hard. And faithful? She frowned, her laughter fading. "Ngozi, what are you trying to say?" My lips parted, but the words choked me. How could I tell her without destroying her world? How could I rip the blindfold from her eyes without being branded the villain? So I said nothing. I simply smiled weakly, shaking my head. Nothing. Just checking. But that night, I made a decision. If my parents believed she deserved more, then I would give her more. More truth. More clarity. More of the secrets her husband buried in silence. The plan began with observation. I followed Chaik discreetly one Saturday, pretending I was meeting a friend at Acacia City Mall. His car pulled out of the estate, sleek and untouchable, and I trailed behind in a kiki, heart hammering in my throat. He didn't head to the office. He didn't go to a meeting. Instead, he drove to a quiet neighborhood in Suralere and parked outside a modest bungalow. Minutes later, a woman emerged, tall, with braided hair and eyes that seemed too familiar. She smiled at him, leaned in, and kissed him like a wife would kiss her husband. I froze. My breath caught as I realized the bitter truth: Ada wasn't just a mistress. She was something more. The weeks that followed confirmed it. Ada lived there with a little boy, no older than 3, whose resemblance to Chaik was undeniable. The child had his sharp jawline, his eyes, even the way he furrowed his brow. My sister's perfect husband had another family. The revelation burned inside me like wildfire. Every family dinner became torture, every smile of Amaka's a dagger to my chest. My parents continued their chorus: "Chaik is the best thing that ever happened to this family. Amaka deserves him." And I would sit silently, knowing the truth, that the best thing was a lie wrapped in deceit. But silence was no longer an option. The next time I saw Amaka, she was glowing, holding my hand as she whispered, "Ngozi, I think I'm pregnant. Don't tell anyone yet, I want it to be a surprise for Chaik." My throat tightened, tears stinging my eyes. She was planning a future with a man who had already built another. That night, I sat by my window again, staring at the compound gate, listening to my father's voice echo in my head. "Your sister deserves more." Yes. She did. And it was time I gave it to her. The next morning, my resolve hardened like stone. For too long, I had swallowed the bitterness of being the shadow child, the one who was told to sacrifice in silence. But this wasn't about me anymore, it was about Amaka. If she carried her child into a web of deceit, she would be destroyed. I began carefully. Instead of throwing accusations, I showed her pieces of the puzzle. "Amaka," I said one evening as we sat in her living room, the faint hum of a generator filling the silence. "Do you ever wonder why Chaik is always busy on weekends? Why he disappears for hours with no clear explanation?" She frowned, her hands still on the fabric she was folding. "Ngozi, every hardworking man is busy. Do you think money falls from the sky? Don't let small-minded gossip poison you. Her words pierced me, but I pressed on. Then explain this. I slid my phone across the table. On the screen was a picture I had taken from a distance, the bungalow in Suralere, the woman stepping out of the house, and Chaik holding the little boy's hand. Amaka's face drained of color. She picked up the phone with trembling hands, her lips parting soundlessly. Who is this? Her name is Ada, I whispered. And that child? He's Chaik's son. The silence that followed was suffocating. She stared at the picture, shaking her head violently as if denial could undo the truth. No. No, this can't be. Ngozi, you must be mistaken. Maybe it's someone who looks like him. Amaka, I cut in, my voice breaking. I followed him. I saw them together more than once. He's been living a double life. Her hands flew to her mouth, stifling a sob. Tears welled up in her eyes, spilling down her cheeks. God, no. Not Chaik. He loves me. He can't. I reached across the table, gripping her hands firmly. I know it hurts. But you deserve more than lies. More than being his cover while he builds another home elsewhere. She pulled her hands away, standing abruptly. Stop. Stop talking. You've always been jealous of me, Ngozi. Since we were children, you've envied everything I had. Now you're trying to destroy my marriage. Her words cut deeper than any blade. I felt my chest tighten, but I forced myself to stay calm. You think I'd go this far just because of jealousy? Amaka, I love you. You're my sister. I'd never lie about this. But her eyes, red with tears, glared at me with something between pain and betrayal. She stormed into her room, slamming the door behind her. I sat there, shaking, wondering if I had done the right thing. Maybe she needed time. Maybe denial was the first step before acceptance. Later that night, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Amaka. If this is true, I'll find out myself. Don't speak to anyone about it. Not even Mama or Papa. I exhaled slowly, my hands trembling. She hadn't dismissed it completely. A part of her had heard me, even if her pride wouldn't let her admit it yet. But I also knew one thing, Chaik would not let this slide. If he realized I was pulling at the threads of his double life, he would come for me. And the look in his eyes the night I first mentioned Ada haunted me still. As I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling fan spinning lazily, I whispered to myself, your sister deserves more, Ngozi. And you will give it to her, even if it costs you everything. The storm broke 3 weeks later. Amaka had grown quieter, her laughter dimmed, her eyes hollow. And then, one Sunday evening, the storm came crashing through the walls of our parents' home. We were gathered for dinner, Mama dishing egusi soup, Papa praising Chaik for his hard work, while Chaik smiled, calm and unshaken. Amaka sat stiffly beside him, her hand clutching her phone like a weapon. Then, without warning, she slammed it on the table. The screen lit up with a video, a shaky recording of Chaik stepping out of the Suralere house, Ada beside him, the little boy tugging at his hand. His voice was audible, Daddy, are you coming back tomorrow? The room froze. Mama gasped, her hand flying to her chest. Papa's spoon clattered to the floor. I stared at my sister, whose eyes blazed with a fury I had never seen before. Tell them, Chaik, she said, her voice trembling. Tell my parents how their perfect son-in-law has another family. Tell them how you've been living a lie. Chaik's face darkened, but he kept his composure. Amaka, this isn't the place. This is exactly the place, she screamed, rising to her feet. Because all my life, they told me I deserved more. And you, she jabbed a finger at him, her body shaking, you gave me nothing but shame. Mama burst into tears. Papa shook his head in disbelief. Chaik, is this true? For a long moment, silence reigned. Then Chike leaned back, exhaling. I didn't plan for it to happen. Ada was before Amaka. The child was born before I married her. I thought I could balance both lives without hurting anyone. Amaka let out a bitter laugh, tears streaming down her face. Without hurting anyone? You destroyed me. You made me believe I was the only one. I carried your name with pride while you, her voice cracked. You played me for a fool. Mama turned to me suddenly, her eyes wide with confusion. Ngozi, did you know about this? My throat tightened. Every gaze in the room burned into me. Slowly, I nodded. Yes. I knew. I tried to warn her. The room erupted. Papa's voice thundered, and you didn't tell us? You let this family live in lies? Tears stung my eyes. I wanted to protect her. I wanted her to see it for herself. Would you have believed me if I had said it? You never believe me. It's always been about Amaka. Silence. Heavy, suffocating silence. Amaka wiped her tears, looking at me with something softer now. Pain, but also gratitude. You were right, Ngozi. I didn't want to believe you, but you were right. Chike stood, his jaw clenched. Believe what you want. I did what I thought was best. Best for who? Amaka spat. Your ego? He didn't answer. He simply walked out, the sound of the door slamming reverberating through the house like a final judgment. That night, I lay in bed replaying everything. My parents sat in silence, broken by the weight of their own blindness. Amaka wept in her room, her world shattered. And I, the shadow child, wondered if I had done the right thing. Yes, I had given my sister more of the truth, more of her husband's secrets. But truth is a double-edged sword. It cuts open lies, but it also wounds the heart that holds it. As dawn broke, I realized something: my parents were wrong. Amaka didn't deserve more simply because she was beautiful or favored. She deserved honesty. She deserved dignity. And so did I. Because in the end, sisters are not rivals in the eyes of fate. We are mirrors, sometimes cracked, sometimes clear, but always bound to reflect the truth, no matter how ugly it is. And that was the only more I could ever give her. Truth is painful, but silence is far deadlier. Favoritism blinds families, but honesty, however bitter, can free them.